Hello, America. Are you sick of winning yet? Because I'm not. I get up every day and I'm like, what did they do last night? What have they done in the last 24 hours? It's impossible to keep up with. In fact, I talked to my producers today and I said, I think the radio show needs to start every day with just a list of everything they've done because it is happening at such a fast pace. Just before I sat down, I got the news that the newly confirmed AG Pam Bondi has directed the DOJ to pause all federal funding for sanctuary cities. Bondi also has directed the DOJ to identify and evaluate all funding agreements with non-government organizations, NGOs. Doesn't it just feel good inside? And she's also directing litigating components of the Justice Department to investigate instances of jurisdictions that are impeding law enforcement and directing that they be prosecuted when necessary. That's the latest. But wait, I'm sure there's more. What time is it? Soon. The Trump administration has kind of hit the ground running. Mad sprint, especially on illegal immigration. And it is amazing to watch. The past 2 weeks have been jam-packed with developments. It's the White House's top issue so far, which isn't surprising. It's one of the main issues that helped elect President Trump. The surprise is in how fast they're moving to start fixing not only this, but every massive problem. But let's stick to this one. The massive problem that even now the New York Times had to admit last month has been the largest immigration surge in U.S. history. You don't say. The Biden administration let in an average of 2.4 million people per year during his first 3 years in office. The Department of Homeland Security has estimated that 11 million illegal immigrants were living in the U.S. as of 2022. That number, several million higher now, but no one knows for sure because Biden allowed another 5 to 7 million people into the country. You know, we don't know exactly. 5 to 7, it's close. I'm ballparking it here. Well, Trump has promised to stop the border madness, and so far, he's following through. Mass deportation operation began with over 300 criminal illegal aliens rounded up on President Trump's day one. According to Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who, let's just take a moment here. Tom Homan, he's going to be on the show here in a minute, but I love Tom Homan. Anyway, he's putting the focus where it should be on arresting those who are public safety threats and national security threats. Trump also sent an additional 1,500 U.S. troops to secure the southern border. And just a week ago, the first deportation flights departed from El Paso, headed toward Guatemala. Border security seems to be an understandable concept all over the world, you know, except when it applies to America, in which case everyone has to weigh in with, the horror, like everybody's favorite, Pope Francis. Franny called Trump's deportation plans a disgrace, adding, quote, "It'll make poor unfortunates who have nothing foot the bill for global imbalances." Which global imbalances are these? I mean, they're all refugees, but from what exactly? Because there seems to be millions of them all over the world. I'm going to have much more later on tonight about who's actually footing the bill. But I liked border czar Tom Homan's response, pointing out that the Vatican is protected by a very high wall that goes all the way around it. Apparently, some border security is more okay than others. Next came Trump's showdown with the nation of Colombia. Initially, Colombia said, I am outraged. We're not going to let your U.S. military planes land here with Colombian deportees. No? Really? Well, a 25% tariff kind of cooked that goose. 25% tariff on all Colombian goods, plus a travel ban on Colombian officials and some other sanctions. But who would have seen this coming? Really? I mean, all of a sudden, Colombia's socialist president was like, wait, was I saying you couldn't land here with them? We love these, but we're taking them back. And Trump called off all of the tariffs. China must want to avoid a similar showdown with Donald Trump because their foreign ministry announced just last week that China wants to take all these Chinese nationals who are deported for entering the U.S. illegally. Isn't that nice of them? I mean, that's great. I mean, it is the very least they could do after all the espionage, hacking, and fentanyl trafficking. I mean, you know. But hey, let's be nice. China, good job, China. So far, the focus on capturing illegal alien criminals seems to be working. And we're also getting a little more transparency with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE. They're posting daily the stats of arrests made. Isn't that nice of them? In Boston, ICE agents arrested a Haitian man with 17 criminal convictions over a 2-year span. Now, I guess in Massachusetts, they have a 17-strike rule and you're out kind of thing, but not in the rest of the country. During the first week of deportations, ICE also caught 2 suspected terrorists, one with alleged ties to ISIS, darn it, and in total contrast to the 99 illegal aliens on the terror watch list that were released into the U.S. on Joe Biden's watch, this guy we're actually sending home. The White House has been posting examples of some of the worst illegal alien criminals that have been arrested so far. So far, they include an MS-13 gang member for armed robbery and acts of terrorism, a Venezuelan national for sexual assault of a child, an Ethiopian sexual abuse and kidnapping, another MS-13 gang member from El Salvador wanted for murder, and then about 50 Trendiagua members who were arrested in Denver. You know, what have they done? It's just a little apartment rent crime. And also the first ICE raid in New York City captured that gang's leader. I mean, it's a pretty good start. Pretty good start. That was only the first week. At the end of last week, Tom Homan said, "You're not really satisfied with the pace of deportations." Really? You know what? I don't think I am either. And the White House has established a quota now. I thought you conservatives were against quotas. Not all of them. 75 arrests per day from each of the 25 ICE field offices across the U.S. As part of this accelerated effort, President Trump also announced this.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
Gosh, I wish this wasn't all necessary, but it is because of an unprecedented, intentional screw-up day after day by the Biden White House. Was it a screw-up, or was that actually the plan? On his first day in office, Joe Biden imposed a 100-day moratorium on all deportations. Then, as the border exploded in crisis, Team Biden took enforcement and removal operations personnel, you know, that's the division of ICE charged with detaining and removing illegal aliens, and moved them to the border to help sort out the chaos. As a result, according to a House Judiciary Committee report last year, quote, the important daily duties of those employees in tracking down fugitive illegal aliens were neglected. For ICE officers on fugitive operation teams, instead of working to find national security threats and public safety cases, they were required to perform border-related administrative duties. Oh. Wonder what the result was. Over 662,000 criminal illegal aliens were allowed to cross the border. 95% of them are freely roaming around in the streets of the U.S. today. Now, prior to Trump's second inauguration, of the 39,468 illegals convicted or charged with homicide, kidnapping, or sexual assault, the Department of Homeland Security had detained 1,091 of them. Wow. That's a pretty good job. Now, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, they have a massive, daunting mess to clean up. In case you thought their job might be a little easier because the resistance seems to have lost some resolve, think again. Here's Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison just last week.
Let me just say that I have no fear of the Trump administration. Absolutely not.
You should.
We're going to devote the resources of our state to our state business, not immigration business. That's their business. We're going to do our business. And of course, we're not going to interfere with their business, but we're not going to do their bidding.
That's right. Likewise, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says his city's police force will not cooperate with ICE. Oh, wait a minute, hang on just a second. I know I was handed that news story. Bondi has also directed the DOJ to identify, evaluate all funding agreements with non-governmental organizations, also directing litigating components of the Justice Department to investigate instances of jurisdictions that are impeding law enforcement, directing that they should be prosecuted, and they directed the DOJ to pause all federal funding to sanctuary cities. Minneapolis. You're going to have a shortage soon, but you don't care about that. You're just going to put all the pile in the money in a big pile and share it equally with everybody anyway. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker helped spread the lie that ICE raided a Chicago elementary school. Whoops. Turns out not ICE. It was the Secret Service investigating a threat unrelated to immigration. Or was it? Is somebody threatening to kill the president in an elementary school? The city of Chicago provides a handy guide for immigrants, including a hotline to call. If you believe you're witnessing ICE activity, call us. It advises people not to discuss your immigration or citizenship status with the police, immigration agents, or other officials. Just come to us. Trust us, the city officials in Chicago who are screwing everybody. Now, the NEA and the AFT, those are the two largest teachers' union. Of course, they're on the front lines of this. But they have both published guides for schools telling staff how to help illegals evade ICE. A progressive law firm in Maine is even advising public schools to destroy evidence of illegal immigration status in their student records. And then, of course, we have the phony panic resistance from the mainstream media. The Trump administration better deport while they have the momentum, because the resistance, with all of their credibility and all of the moral high ground, is slowly recovering from their post-election shock, and they're digging in to crush us. After a quick break, it's going to be cute, don't you? I mean, they make cute little efforts. I want to show you how we've been funding our own immigration disaster. Oh, you're going to be happy. If it wasn't so well documented, it'd be unbelievable. But, I mean, stranger things have happened, right? Then President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, will be joining me on tonight's program. All right. Now, let me tell you about Relief Factor. Oh, you've heard me talk about Relief Factor before, haven't you? Telling you can enjoy a pain-free life, because I am because of Relief Factor. Have you tried it yet? No? Why not, commie? Their 3-week quick start kit, $19.95. It's capitalism, man, and it's an easy and affordable way to see if you could literally change your life. Relief Factor, it's a daily supplement. It helps fight pain naturally with your body. Your body's got to fight this inflammation. That's what causes most of our pain. It's also what causes most of our disease. Couldn't be easier than with their 3-week quick start. Look at the person right there. They're kind of in my shape. You know what I mean? Kind of fat and lumpy, kind of like that. If that's you and your back or something hurts, try Relief Factor. Relief Factor's 3-week quick start. Get it today. It's $19.95, 800, the number 4 relief. 800-4-RELIEF. Oh, the curtain is being pulled back, and it's being pulled back quickly, and it's just beginning. So how did our government allow the largest influx of illegal immigrants in U.S. history? I mean, sure, the Biden's open door policy, certainly, but you can't really facilitate that many millions of people streaming in on their own. You know, you kind of need help. But Team Biden was there to help with your tax money. An invasion this massive requires coordination and financial backing. Have you ever wondered how so many poor immigrants scrounge up enough money to get all the way from South and Central America right to our border, and then somehow or another make a deal with the drug lords? I mean, their expenses, they don't have a lot. Well, I mean, sure, they don't have a lot, but a lot of it's covered mostly by you. the American taxpayer. And then once they arrive in the U.S., their travel across America is also covered too. News Nation reported this story of an illegal immigrant from Togo. I don't even know where that is. It's typical of the way this system works. After crossing the border in Arizona and self-surrendering to Border Patrol, he was released into the country where an NGO provided him with food and a hotel room for several days, paid for his bus fare to Washington, D.C., paid for another hotel to stay in D.C., paid for an Uber to the airport, and paid for his flight to his final destination in Indiana. So where did this NGO get all the money to cover those expenses? FEMA. Starting in late 2021, the Biden administration appropriated $1.6 billion in FEMA funds to go toward immigrant care expenses. Now, that includes things like booking 14,000 hotel rooms over the last 2 years for the illegal immigrants in New York City. Also in 2021, Team Biden moved another $2 billion from the Department of Health and Human Services to help pay for the illegal immigrant crisis at the border. $850 million of that was money that Congress had intended to rebuild the U.S. strategic national stockpile of emergency medical supplies that got depleted the last pandemic, when they were suddenly begging China for crappy masks and medical gloves. Yeah, that was the money that was supposed to replace those, so we had those. Yeah, but instead we rolled out a welcome mat for illegal immigrants. Now here's how the illegal immigration industrial complex developed under Biden. As soon as he swung the doors, U.S. Border Patrol facilities were overwhelmed. And when those facilities are full, which for the past 4 years have basically been all the time, every day, Border Patrol sends the enormous overflow of immigrants to NGOs to take over. They feed them, they lodge them, they book travel for them, they hold them at night. Then NGOs get paid billions of taxpayer dollars, which flows from the alphabet soup of federal agencies, including the State Department and USAID and FEMA and Health and Human Services and Homeland Security. You could knock me over with a feather. Then there are dozens of these NGOs jostling for their place at all the government money troughs. But let's just look at three of the biggest ones. There's Global Refuge. In 2018, their revenue was $50 million. But by 2022, it was over $207 million, with 87% of that coming from your tax dollars. Now, Global Refuge has over 550 employees all across the U.S. The Free Press reported last year that in 2019, Global Refuge provided lodging for over 2,500 unaccompanied children at the cost of $30 million. By 2022, they were lodging 1,400 children at a cost of $82 million. I mean, wow, we've experienced Bidenflation like crazy, but that's next level, isn't it? Another major NGO, Southwest Key Programs, in 2020, their federal government grant totaled $391 million. 2 years into the Biden administration, their grant ballooned to $790 million. This despite records of financial scandals and misuse of federal funds. No, tell me it's not so. As well as physical and sexual abuse of some of the children. It wasn't all the children, what? And then there's an NGO called Endeavors. In 2021, they hired Andrew Lorenzo Strait to be their senior director for migrant services and federal affairs. Now, before this, he was a member of the Biden-Harris transition team, but pay no attention to that. It was the good work he was doing, not the connections. Just a few months after he joined the NGO, Endeavors received a $530 million no-bid contract from Health and Human Services. Nobody else was allowed to even bid on it. And another $87 million contract from ICE. Isn't that great? What are the odds? So what are some of the migrant care services that Endeavor provides with all that cash? Well, there was an internal presentation that was obtained by America First Legal. It shows that Endeavors offers music and pet therapy, has logged over 1,600 sessions of people-plant interactions, which I think humans speak, that's commonly known as gardening. Someone in the federal government really liked the stellar work that Endeavors is doing, because in 2022, they got another $1.3 billion from the United States government. Well, the head of Global Refuge was the former policy director for Michelle Obama when she was First Lady, senior advisor under Hillary Clinton, and then John Kerry when they, were each the Secretary of State. As president and CEO of Global Refuge, she makes just over, I hate to even say it, $600,000. How does she afford to live? The Southwest Key Program CEO salary is over $1 million. You see what I'm saying? And the CEO of Endeavors makes $600,000. It's poverty central. Now remember, these are leaders of tax-exempt nonprofits whose business is providing almost total care of the flood of immigrants at our borders. In 2018, the Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement had a budget of $1.8 billion. By 2024, a little bit of inflation, Biden had budgeted $9.3 billion, an increase of over 500%, almost all of which gets funneled to NGOs. And what are the odds that they're all friends of people that worked in the former administration? You and I, are literally funding a free ride for immigrants to every corner of the U.S. And we're making all of these lefties incredibly wealthy. Now, I'm going to have more to the show after the break, but I'm getting ready. I'm excited. I love him. Border Czar Tom Homan. He's coming. In fact, let me say that to all illegals. Tom Homan is coming. Okay, so we won the election. Let me say that again. We won the election. So it's really only the start of our journey, not the end of it. We have to rebuild our nation. I mean, after all, we're going to build a resort in Gaza. You know what I mean? We need a sandals there. Anyway, part of that means continuing to build the parallel economy that we've been building here, right here, for years now. I want you to consider switching your cell service to Patriot Mobile today. Why are you giving your money to those anti-American pigs, the swine? Why are you doing that? America's only Christian conservative mobile company is there, and their mission is to passionately defend our God-given constitutional rights and freedom and glorify God always. They probably wouldn't say the communist swine. They probably wouldn't say that, but I did. They just offer nationwide coverage. You get the same coverage without sending it to the swine, honestly. Their customer service, I believe, is better than others, and it all sounds good. Right now, just go to patriotmobile.com/Beck. Call 972-PATRIOT. You're going to get a free month of service with the promo code Beck. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you on the phone with them now? Free month of service. Great savings, and you're not giving your money to communist swine. PatriotMobile.com/Beck, 972-PATRIOT.
A crowd estimated to be in the thousands clashing with both police and some angry drivers when they took their protest to the 101 freeway. The crowd taking over both sides of the freeway shortly after noon. Many of them seen carrying U.S. or Mexico flags, signs speaking out against ICE and the policy of mass deportation. The backup on the freeway quickly building to miles, causing major gridlock.
Protesting for our people, for peace, for equality. I think everything that's going on is so scary, and I think we all deserve to be treated like humans.
Well, then you shouldn't wear a bull ring in your nose. That's just me. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know about you, but they sold me. You know, when they block traffic and I'm on my way home and they're holding Mexican flags and, destroying police cars, I think to myself, I think they have a point. They would make good Americans here, Why? What are we doing? They're good people. How many of the protesters in L.A. over the weekend understand that if you're not breaking the law, you don't really have anything to worry about? Again, the focus of the Trump White House is the mass deportation of criminals right now. You see what he's doing? It's kind of like saying, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on your country. You know, he threatens that, and then everybody who doesn't want that starts to just go, you know what, I think I'm going to do what he says. So it's like, you could self-deport, because that's the message being sent. After we finish here, we're going to go get you. Will there be any left? I don't know. Now, as far as being treated like humans, if that's really a priority, then everyone, regardless of background, should want to prioritize legal immigration. Because letting 8 million people or more flood across the border, as Joe Biden did, creates conditions for all kinds of abuse. Sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, slave labor. I mean, sounds great, sure, in the 1850s, not so great now. The flooding of NGOs with federal money created a market and an incentive for maintaining the steady stream of immigrants to the U.S. border. The House Judiciary Committee report last year describes it like this, quote, the Biden administration encourages illegal aliens to arrive at the border, they chauffeur them into the interior, and then reward them with concierge services, all on the taxpayer's dime and at the expense of public safety. Now, under Biden, ICE prioritized something called alternatives to detention. That sounds so much better than prison, doesn't it? Now, this program would supposedly monitor the illegal immigrants who had been released into the U.S. But that's not what happened. It was essentially a taxpayer-funded welfare program, and it included access to legal orientation programs, legal service referrals, and, of course, Planned Parenthood. You know, why have an anchor baby when you can kill your children? They also had access to food, housing, and health care, including mental health services. Immigrants were often referred to, as the NGOs would say, the far-left ideologies. They would say things like, well, here's what the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center said, which has boasted about uniting California's kink community for an inaugural leather event that has advocated for transgender surgeries for children. That's, I mean, I don't know why we're not spending more money there. You know, it sounds like everything we're for. Doesn't it sound like red, white, and blue? And of course, each of these providers receive payment for services rendered from the federal government. Now, the House Judiciary Committee report also highlights cases from last year alone that show an epic failure of Team Biden's alternatives to detention program. One Afghan national was released at the border and enrolled in the ATD. 2 weeks later, just 2 weeks later, he was removed from the program for unknown reasons, and he freely roamed the U.S. for months. Well, he was finally arrested again last year because, oops, turns out he was, who would have guessed it, on the FBI terrorist watch list. I mean, we didn't even have a copy of it. We're so poor down here. Our cupboards in the government are bare. 2 Venezuelan men who illegally entered the country were arrested for allegedly murdering a 12-year-old girl in Houston. They had been enrolled in ATD last spring. One of the men was even wearing his ATD ankle monitor when he committed, allegedly, the murder. While left-wing policy and federal money keep the immigration business booming for NGOs on the U.S. side of the border, the United Nations is there to help coordinate business south of the border. The UN has a program called the International Organization of Migration. And you'll never guess which nation provides the most funding for IOM. Us. Isn't that great? Oh, I feel like I feel so good. Last year alone, the State Department and a few other federal agencies shoveled around $1.9 billion of your money to the IOM. With that money, the UN funds the immigration gravy train to move people to the U.S. border. The IOM, do you realize why they're protesting in the streets today against USAID? I mean, you have any, really, you're concerned about the jobs there? No. This is just one of the treasure troves of information on this kind of crap. Now, the IOM's 2025 budget calls for another $1.4 billion to assist 2.3 million immigrants from around the world who the UN projects will make their way to the U.S. through Central America. Guess who's not getting in this year? Gosh darn it. Guess who's not getting that big budget number either? The budget covers food, transportation, hotels, healthcare, and lots of other needs that may arise on that long trail to America. And all of these needs are taken care of by the UN's 230 NGO partners. The UN even provides travelers with rechargeable cash debit cards to help cover their expenses along the way. Well, thank you, UN. I'm sure glad that your headquarters are in one of our biggest cities. Sometimes the money is even provided in cash envelopes. So it's no surprise then that according to former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, in most cases, this money gets used to pay off the cartels that guide people to the U.S. border. What could go wrong with people with tons of cash in their pockets coming to the cartel areas? Nothing could go wrong, right? It's almost as if we were in business with the cartels. The director of the IOM, which disperses all of this American cash, is Amy Pope. I hope she's better than Franny. Previously, she was the senior advisor on migration to Joe Biden. The Biden White House lobbied hard to get Pope placed as IOM director at the UN. That way, Team Biden could be in control of the whole immigration industrial complex on both sides of our border. Wow, and I thought they couldn't do anything on their own. A new 75,000 square foot mall is under construction in the southern tip of Mexico that will now house UN and NGO offices to serve as sort of a one-stop shop for immigrants trying to make their way to the U.S. Now, you don't go to the trouble to build something like that unless you're pretty sure there's going to be plenty of business for a very long time. Well, looks like business forecast is a little cloudy out there. Looks like it might shrink, maybe for the next 4 years. And there might be some falling apparatuses from the sky if you're a drug lord. Keep a lookout for them. It's going to be a beautiful night. Last week, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced that the agency will end its grant funding to the NGOs. This potentially game-changing and long overdue step is happening. Shutting down USA funding for the UN's International Organization of Migration has to be the next step. Follow the money. That's always the key. Now, in this case, America's illegal immigration crisis has been funded by you all along. But that's what you voted for, right? When you wanted a return to sanity and normalcy, and you thought, this guy, I mean, he's been around, good old Joe, he's been around forever. I mean, he's not going to do anything radical or crazy. We're going to go back to normal. Yeah. Did you know that this, because we told you it was. We told you, in fact, that it was happening. You were probably watching the show going, Glenn, I know, I saw all of the episodes for the last 4 years where we lined all this out. Yeah, but that was frustrating. Tonight, I kind of feel all warm and fuzzy inside. It may have been that I just peed myself, but I don't know. I still kind of feel warm and fuzzy inside. I think that's because all of this is coming to an end. Back in a minute with the White House border czar, Tom Homan. So, I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, Donald Trump is just taking on every cartel, every country, every bad guy, you know, from here to the moon. What could possibly go wrong? Because they're going to give up. You know, they're not going to put up a fight at all. Hey, in an unrelated note, if a crisis should hit, food is almost always the first casualty. Everyone needs it. And as soon as things get scary, panic buying sets in. Always be prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. And keep your mouth shut on this, okay? You know what I'm saying? No need to go around blabbing everything you know and everything you got. Storing emergency food in your home is the right thing to do. I don't do it myself. I don't know what you're talking about. We live in crazy times. Right now, My Patriot Supply is offering $50 off their 4-week emergency food kit. 2,000 calories per day for 3 whole months. Plenty to get you through even the prolonged emergency. You might come to me and ask me for a favor. I don't have any favors. I don't have any food kits. Not in my house, no. Right now, they're offering $50 off their 4-week food kit. So go to mypatriotsupply.com. Grab yours. Don't put it off. Now is the time to prepare. mypatriotsupply.com. Get your 4-week food kit today. I have a lot of favorites in this administration. Tom Homan is one of them. He's up at the higher part of the list. He's a former police officer, U.S. Border Patrol agent, and former acting director of ICE. He is also now the White House border czar, and one of the busiest men, I think, in the Trump administration, and that's saying something. Tom, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. You guys are just killing it right now. I can't thank you enough for what you guys are doing. Was this something, Tom, when you were appointed, was this something that had been in the planning for a long time? How involved is the White House in the plans? And how, I mean, everything's happening. It seems so coordinated with all of the different things that are happening. How far out are you guys planned?
Well, look, as far as when it all started, over a year ago, and President Trump, just before he announced he's going to run for president, he contacted me and wanted to know if he ran and won if I come back. I told him I was so pissed off what the Biden administration did to our border, I'd come back for free, absolutely. So I think I was one of the first guys he called. Anyways, I jumped at the chance, and I'm loving it. And look, we're real successful right now. Border crossings are down. Almost 90% across the southern border. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we had, 11,000 a day under Joe Biden. And yesterday we had like 486 for the entire border. And not a single one of them were released to the United States. They either immediately removed or put in detention. So it's great.
Any numbers going the other direction? Do you have any idea of how many are self-deporting?
You know, we're trying to capture that metric now. I'm sure there's going to be an announcement coming here in the next week or so, where we want to start, if they report to ICE before they self-deport or stop at the port of entry, we'll give them credit for it. So we're working on that now. So we have no idea who's self-deporting. CBP has a system for people who, here on a visa and they leave and they report that they left, so we can track that. But as far as illegal aliens, there's no system in place. We're working on that now. But there's going to be a warning coming out. They can't get ahead of it about 10 days from now where we're going to discuss this very issue and give illegal aliens this country the right to self-report so they don't get a bar placed on them. Because if you get deported from this country, formally deported, there's a bar placed on you from 5 to 20 years, depending on your case. You can't come back under any circumstance. Even if you have a U.S. citizen child that wants to petition for you, if you want to come back on a visitor's visa or a student visa, you just can't. So we're going to have a massive push in about 10 days getting people to self-report and send them home.
So, in the last couple of days, we've looked at USAID. Tonight on the show, we talked about all of the money from the NGOs that was coming from the United States, from us taxpayers. It is really outrageous. A lot of that money fell into the hands of the cartels. Nobody likes to take this kind of a dip in their cash flow. They had a good business going with the United States government, it seems. How concerned are you on retaliation from them and them saying they're going to use drones? Do you believe it?
I absolutely believe it, and I'm very concerned. I was on the southern border a couple of days ago with Pete Hegseth, new secretary, and we discussed that very issue. And I put a stiff warning out. Look, like you just said, the cartels are making a record amount of money lately in the last 4 years. Record amount of money, smuggling aliens, sex trafficking women and children, moving drugs across the border. They're making record amounts of money. That's why there's a cartel war going on in Mexico right now. The cartels are fighting one another for control of the plazas, their area control. So look, they're not going to go away lightly. They're not just going to walk away. President Trump has designated terrorist organizations, so the whole world's going to come down on them. The border's secure. They can't move their product. They can't smuggle the people. They're not going to go away quietly. There will be violence on the border. But like I said yesterday, I think the Border Patrol's prepared. We get great intel on this, that the U.S. military is prepared. And it's just a warning to the cartels. I think if they harm a single Border Patrol agent or soldier, President Trump's going to rain hell down on them. And I think he'll wipe them off the face of the earth. There's a reason he doesn't in terrorist organizations. They killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. President Trump's not going to mess with them.
So when you say there's going to be violence on the border, I heard you say that the other day. What do you mean? What should we prepare to see?
I think you're going to see them shooting at Border Patrol agents. They've already started a couple days ago. Border Patrol was taking fire. I think you'll see that escalate. These groups are making record amounts of money. They're not going. They got to find a way to get their product in. So armed encounters with the cartels, I think, are going to increase. I hope I'm wrong, but I've done this for 35 years. I don't think I'm wrong at all. There's going to be more armed encounters on that border, and I just hope and pray every uniformed Border Patrol agent goes home to his family every day, or her family. But it's not going to be easy. It's not. If anybody thinks the cartels are not going to respond in some fashion with some violence, they're crazy. It's going to happen.
So, the president of Mexico said she was offended that anyone would suggest that their government is in bed with the cartels. And, all you have to do is look at the news. Anytime somebody wants to run for office and they talk about cleaning out the cartels, they're killed over and over and over again. It's no secret. I would imagine that politicians in Mexico, the ones who aren't on the take, would actually be all in favor of the United States coming in and cleaning out that hornet's nest in the cartels. What do you think Mexico's reaction would be?
I think for the country it'd be great. Look, the cartels have killed thousands of journalists and prosecutors and politicians and officers and military. I think Mexico, some of the people on the take that are on the take from the cartels, they're forced to be on the take. Cartel says, you're either going to do this for us, we'll give you this much money. If you don't do it, we'll kill you and your family.
Right.
So, I think Mexico will be, if they could be free of the cartels, I think the country would be much safer. Let's remember, just wars alone. Mexico has thousands of people murdered by the cartels. I think Mexico will be a much better country. I think they would welcome that. And I hope they partner the United States to make that happen.
There are blue states now. There are cities and mayors and everybody else that are saying they're not going to help ICE. Are there any purposely impeding the orders of the president on deportations? And if there are, what message do you want to send to them?
Look, I've been clear. If they don't want to help, shame on them, because we've made it clear we're prioritizing public safety threats. I find it hard to believe any politician, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, does not want public safety threats removed from their communities. I think the number one responsibility of any politician is protection of his communities. But if they don't want to help, stand aside, we'll do it for them. I just landed. I was in Aurora, Colorado today doing an operation. Aurora, Colorado, the politicians there, they had no problem with TDA. Well, we went there today to answer the call. The President Trump made a promise. We kept that promise. We're arresting TDA today. But, but they crossed that line. I don't think anybody has crossed that line yet. Governor Phil Murphy made some comment the other day. He was harboring illegal alien. We've already started working that, but all of a sudden now he's saying it wasn't true. But if there's a politician that knowingly and actively impedes a federal law enforcement officer, it's a felony. If they knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE officials, it's a felony. And look, we got Pam Bondi in there now. Pam Bondi, one of the first things she did is hold off federal funding for these sanctuary cities. You have no problem if I recommend prosecution of a politician for impeding or knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal alien.
When you say impeding the work of ICE, does that mean they have to physically impede, or just some of their policies?
That's what the Department of Justice is reviewing right now. For me, it's like, that the mayor of Denver saying he's going to put roadblocks up, have, police officers blocking entering the city. That's clearly impeding. DOJ, the Deputy AG, Bovey, and they're looking at that right now. They're making a clear distinction. So one of these sanctuary jurisdictions, here's the line you don't cross. So I'll let the attorneys work that out, but you should see guidance come on that real soon. And they're serious about it. They're serious about it. We're already looking at sanctuary city and see if they cross that line. So I'm not an attorney. I'm not prosecuted, but I'm willing to put handcuffs on somebody once the U.S. attorney decides they're going to prosecute somebody.
I got to tell you, Tom, the one thing that surprised even me, and I'm a fan of what Donald Trump was doing, and I knew he was going to move fast. But boy, you guys are all in lockstep and serious and well planned out. It's breathtaking to watch on this side. You guys all have to be tired because we're a little tired of trying to catch up on everything that you've done. It's amazing. Thank you.
You know, I was just talking to my security detail because I got numerous death threats against me and my family, and we just landed coming up in Colorado. And I was just talking to the lead of my security detail that we got to give him a day off. This team has not had a day off since January 3rd. I mean, the day after the election, I'm working with Steve Miller, the architect, brilliant man. We've been planning and creating plans since the day of the election. So we've been busy, and sooner or later we get a day off. But right now, I'm excited because we're doing things we've never done before. When I saw aliens being loaded on military jet moving south, never saw that in my career. When I was in Chicago and just left Colorado, and you see not just ICE officers, you see FBI, you see DEA, you see U.S. Marshals, you see ATF, all of one team to address the public safety threat from illegal aliens. And what's great about it, we catch an illegal alien with drugs, DEA can prosecute before we deport him. We arrested some TDA members with guns. There were some, picture this, an illegal alien from Venezuela, TDA member, selling guns to other gang members here in the country. And some of these guns have what they call a switch. The switch makes that gun fully automatic, a machine gun. So it was great having ATF in the operation. They can prosecute. So this is Trump's vision. We're implementing, and it's a game changer. I'm really excited. I've never seen anything like this in my career. Yeah. This is all hands on deck, making the president's promise come true. I
got to tell you, Tom, I know you have either listened to me or watched me or at least followed somewhat of what I've done in the past, and I haven't been very optimistic of being able to save our country. I think you guys are doing it, and I'm appreciative. Thank you so much, Tom.
And I do follow you, a great patriot, and I appreciate what you do is educating the American people. The media, the left, they want to grab the narrative on it. You already see the stories. ICE is going to raid schools. I mean, for God's sakes, we need people like you out there telling the truth to the American people and educate them. We want to be transparent, but the left is lying about what's happening already, and we're not going to let them steal the narrative on this.
God bless you. Tom, thank you, and keep safe. And your whole team. You bet. Tom Homan, well, tomorrow is a new day, and we will have a long list of what's happened, since we just talked to each other from here to the morning on radio. We'll see you then. Good night.